Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. Welcome back to the show, Mish.
Pleasure to be on. A lot of stuff going on here in Turkey and EU and Italy. Actually, craziness all around. Stock market continues to make new highs. Lots of fun. Where do we want to start?
Well, let's talk Turkey.
Let's talk Turkey. Okay. I just did a post here called the Erdogan Scorecard. Was following an article from the Globe and Mail and one from ABC News. These reports have been coming in piecemeal. He's getting rid of, 15,000 teachers, 8,000 police, blah, blah, blah. I thought I'd go through and compile the whole list and see where we're at. I come to just under 50,000, but I'm quite sure there's another 5 or 20,000 people unaccounted for in the scorecard. But Erdogan got rid of 15,000 teachers, 8,700 Interior Ministry, 1,500 employees in the Finance Ministry, 300 employees in the Energy Ministry, 257 staff people, 492 from the Directorate of Religious Affairs, 85 generals and admirals, 2,745 judges, 8,000 police officers, and another 9,322 of mixed persuasion that have been detained waiting charges, and the 85 generals and admirals are jailed pending trial. Lovely.
Well, he wants to bring back the death penalty. Will this turn out to be a Stalin-like purge?
He does want to bring back the death penalty, and that is one of the things that I mentioned in my post that puts him at odds, actually, not only with Germany but also with the EU. The EU has a no death penalty clause. So, and apparently Merkel called Erdogan to warn him about that. But meanwhile, Merkel's spokesperson said the Turkey deal, the refugee deal, is still in place and should be viewed separately from the coup. I asked in a tweet, how crazy is that? Because I believe it is absolutely, totally crazy.
If 50,000 people were really involved in this coup attempt, you'd think it would have been successful.
Well, if 50,000 people were, certainly. However, if 85 generals were involved in this, there's no way. Just take just give me those 85 generals. I'm going to tell you that this coup would have been successful. At least they would have gotten rid of Erdogan. That is for sure.
What's this going to do for Turkish business prospects for people looking to invest?
Well, I wouldn't invest there. The Turkish lira is crashing. I've not looked up precisely how much it's down, but it rose. It plunged on the day of the coup and then rallied after. It's plunging again. firing all these teachers, detaining all these people, getting rid of these judges. This ain't going to go over well for their economy, let's put it that way.
Well, it looks like, again, just like Stalin, go for all the smart people.
That's exactly what it is. There's no way 50,000 people were involved in this damn thing, because if there were, well, first off, it would have succeeded, but second off, if 50,000 people were involved in it, there's no way they could have held this thing a secret in the first place. So it would have been known about. So the whole premise is nuts. And of course, Turkey is calling on President Obama to extradite this cleric that Gulen, that's hiding out in Pennsylvania. And the U.S. has an extradition treaty with Turkey, but it has to be for good cause. And the U.S. says we want good cause. Turkey says suspicion alone is good cause. Yeah, how about that? Suspicion is good cause. Lovely.
Well, I know from covering extradition hearings, you have to present the same evidence you'd present at trial.
Yeah, well, there is no evidence. If there was, it would be on the way. It would have been on the way to the U.S. long ago.
Italy, that's an interesting prospect. The banks are in big trouble. What's the proposal to bail them out?
Well, we've got another proposal here. It's translates to Atlas here in the United States. The proposal is to spend another 2 billion euros, and supposedly that is going to bail out 360 billion in bad Italian debt. It's quite preposterous that anyone could possibly believe this. Atlas was a plan they concocted as a last resort back in April, so here we're dealing with another last. But the idea was that 425 billion was going to, through the miracles of leverage and confidence-inspiring tactics, was going to bail out these banks. So now, when that didn't work, they concocted another plan today. So they're going to throw $2 billion in Atlas. They're going to specifically target this $2 billion for Banca Monte dei Paschi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Italy's third largest bank and the oldest surviving bank in the entire world, actually, whose share price has on May 1st, 2007 was 108. It's now down to 32 cents. That is a decline of 99.69%. Atlas is supposed to bail this thing out. Part of the big problem here is the sheer number of bad loans that this bank has on the books, and somehow $2 billion is going to inspire confidence. Here, I wrote it down. Let's recap. $2 billion was going to provide firepower to securitize $10 billion of bad loans. It's only a small portion of the number of bad loans they really have. They're going to price the securities at 34 cents that are valued at the market by 20 cents, and supposedly everyone's going to love paying 34 cents for something that's worth 20. And this maneuver will allow the bank to raise another $3.5 billion in capital, something the bank can't do by itself. And then, as the final miracle, this scheme is going to have a knock-on effect and fix the entire 360 billion non-performing banks of the Italian banking system, equal to about 20% of Italy's GDP. And amazingly, a senior banker offered this quote, "It may work."
Should Italians expect? Yes. Should Italians expect the government to dip into their bank accounts to bail out the banks?
Yes, I believe so, and in fact, that is precisely what Brussels wants them to do. The reason why Prime Minister Matteo Renzi does not want to do that is because in Italy, bondholders are often ordinary depositors like you and I. And this particular bank has a lot of Renzi supporters in it, so he's resisting doing this. And of course, we've got Beppe Grillo waiting on the wings, just ready if something like this happens to actually has a strong chance, in my opinion, of winning the next election. Should there be, some sort of bailout like this. So Italy is a house of cards waiting for a tiny gust of wind to blow this thing over. It's amazing to me this house of cards is still up.
Well, since the Second World War, I think on average they've changed national governments every 9 months.
In Italy, something like that.
Yeah.
The latest plan by Matteo Renzi is, and he said he would resign if this didn't pass, was that he wants to actually shrink the Senate, give more power to the House. It's a two-parliamentary system, a House and the Senate, and it's hard to get anything done. So what he wants to do is shrink this, and then if anyone gets as much as 40% of the vote, he wants to change the rules so that they have a majority in both houses. So they can literally, with 40% is the new majority, as I called it in a blog post about a week ago. So the idea there is, he's expecting this thing to pass, and then he's also expecting to win the election. Well, there's another side of this coin. Assuming it passes, what happens if Beppe Grillo gets 40%? We're going to have a vote on Italy leaving the Eurozone and or EU is what's going to happen. He's really playing with fire on this one, and Beppe Grillo is not in favor of this proposal, but personally I hope it passes. One way or another, it'll bring things to a head. Renzi does want some legitimate reforms. He's having a hard time getting them. On the other hand, Italy should not be in the Eurozone, and I'm all in favor here of a breakup of this whole thing, because it's going to break up sooner or later, and there's no better time than now.
Looks like the Eurozone's going to be down to Germany.
Well, actually, that's an interesting thought, because if the Eurozone, if it's Germany, Austria, Netherlands, if those are the countries that stay on the euro, then the value of the euro actually could conceivably soar, but the problem there is Germany would be paid back in Italian liras, Spanish pesos, whatever, not in euros for all the Target 2 imbalances, for all the trade imbalances between the two countries. Either way, Germany is going to lose. That's the bottom line. Germany is either going to bail out these failed Mediterranean states, or they're going to leave the Eurozone, and Germany is not going to be paid back in euros, but paid back in pesos or lira.
Yes, when I was in Italy way back in the early 80s when they still had the lira, 50,000 lira on a bill looks really great. It was worth $40.
Mm-hmm. Be worth a lot less today if their banking system collapses.
We'll have more with Mish Shedlock right after the break.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mish Shedlock. Mish, European airline sales way down. The Farnborough Air Show in England had a low number of aircraft sold, their lowest in 6 years. Is this kind of a hint that the airline business or the building of airliners is not going to be as hot as it once was?
Without a doubt, there's a slowdown here. An employee at Honeywell sent me an internal memo saying, that things are down again. They had layoffs last November. More layoffs are coming, and they're canceling orders at Boeing. They're canceling orders everywhere, and new orders aren't coming in at the same pace. Now, in an effort to put a positive spin on this, Boeing came out and, upped its 20-year forecast. Well, the market will care about 20 years from now, maybe in about 18 or 19 years from now. So there's a slowdown there. If you look at the trucking reports, I just did a post on that. Truck traffic in the U.S., not only traffic but expenditures on trucking are down in June of this year compared to June of 2015, compared to June of 2014, compared to June of 2013. So every year, this year is worse than the last 4 years, in the same month. And this has been going on all year. So, the same thing was true last month, the same thing was true in February, the same thing was true in January. So, for all this talk by Fed governors that, that they're going to hike again this year, and Lockhart was just out, that's the Atlanta Fed governor, talking about he's expecting 2 more hikes this year. Well, he expected 2 hikes, or actually expected 3 or 4 hikes back in April. We saw what happened to that. I think the same thing's going to happen here again. GDP in the fourth quarter, 1.4%, about 1% in the first quarter. Estimates now for the second quarter are range from 1% at market to 2.4% at the Atlanta Fed. Let's just call it 2%. So 1.4, 1, 2, and we're going to hike twice. Since when has the Fed hiked when GDP is averaging for a year under 2%? Quite amazing. Apparently 2% is the new strong economy.
Don't you wish these people who made these predictions had to put their own money on the line?
I do, but you get to be in these positions because they don't ever have to do that. You got all these projections from academia, from the Fed. Most of these people have never held a real job in their lives. You get someone like, economists like Paul Krugman, and the entire academia that lives literally in academic wonderland, and the only way they get promoted up through the ranks is to believe in things like Keynesian spending, that more government spending, can bail out the economy, when empirical evidence and logic suggests that doing something that's unneeded and paying people for it doesn't stimulate anything. It just adds to debt. I think the average 6th grader could understand that. The average economist can't. 6th graders are smarter than most economists, in my opinion.
Well, if that theory worked, the Soviet Union should still be around and be super successful.
Exactly. That is exactly the same kind of thing.
How many people are going to be singing Sweet Home Chicago if the trend in Illinois continues, where you say...
Well, if the trend in Illinois continues, Illinois is losing people at a rate faster than any other state. Now, there's an influx of people as well, so you got to look at the net. But what's really happening is especially disturbing because the Illinois Policy Institute just did a study. People just said, well, it's just people retiring out of Illinois leaving, and the Illinois Policy Institute did a study on this. Said, well, no, it's not just people retiring. It's millennials. It's people aged 44 to 45. And there are certainly some people retiring, but those retiring people also take their money with them and leave, and the younger crowds. So we've got an influx of low-paying social network dependents coming into the state, and we've got an exodus of wealthy, retired, and educated millennials who are leaving. Not a very good trade-off, and it's even worse when you look at it from the standpoint that I just mentioned.
Well, if they're leaving, come to Vancouver, where you'll only have to pay $8 or $9 million for a house.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be crazy, but that's the state of affairs in Vancouver.
Well, apparently the housing bubble has burst. Prices are coming down.
Well, wake me up. How many times have we heard this? How many times have I predicted this? How many times have numerous people said this was going to happen? And then every time there's a 10% pullback, it's followed by a 30% rise. So, could this be the real deal? It could, and it should be, actually. And Canada actually is going to be in a world of pain if it is. Not just if Vancouver goes, but if Vancouver, say, Toronto, and some other large cities go, Canada is going to be in for some serious problems. And the longer the bubble goes, the worse it's going to be, Jim.
Oh, yeah, don't we know it? Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure to be on. We'll catch you in 7.
My guest has been Mike Mish Shedlock. Catch him on mishtalk.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions can be emailed to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.